So I have some exciting news to share with you guys in today's video. I know that I normally film beauty videos, but every once in a while I like to update you on any big life changes, anything that's happening, and this is definitely one of my biggest yet. I am officially a mom to two. I feel like my brain hasn't fully comprehended it yet. This is my son. I will pull him out of the wrap in a little while, but he is currently in the middle of like a good nap, so I don't want to disturb him. And I love that he just loves to be held close and tight and snuggled. It is the best. And now that this is my second time around as a parent, I know how fast those newborn days go. Sometimes that can be comforting if you're in the middle of like those sleep deprived nights, but for the most part, it's so sad because it just flies by so quickly. He is so sweet. I love him so, so much. He definitely also has like a set of lungs on him because when it is time to eat, he lets us know without a doubt. So I did share the news on Instagram. I want to say like a few weeks ago at this point. He's almost a month old, which I honestly cannot comprehend, but it's just been such an overwhelming few weeks, which I'll get into in today's video. We're just slowly adjusting to life as a family of four. And I feel like the days go by so quickly because now that we have two kids, I feel like there's always something going on, someone that needs us. So it's been fun, but I feel like it's just been a big blur. So even though he is almost a month old, we've really only been together as a family of four for a week. So that's why we're still in like the full on adjusting mode. I know it will still take a couple months, I'm sure, but it's been going really well so far. He had to spend the first few weeks of his life in the NICU, which was just a very scary, very overwhelming experience. Thankfully, both he and his birth mom are doing really, really well because, again, it was just a very traumatic start for both her and him. And I'm so thankful that they're both okay. So we did have the privilege of adopting him. And adoption is a very complex topic. This is something I want to talk about in today's video before I kind of get into how we're doing and just things like that. When I was first learning about adoption in 2020, I really had, I guess, like a very rosy view of it because what I knew about adoption was mainly from what I'd seen in movies and television and media, and the way that it's portrayed in those realms is sometimes very different than what it's like in real life. Thankfully, in 2024, there are so many resources when it comes to adoption. So, over the last few years, my husband and I have really made a big effort to educate ourselves about adoption and mainly listen to the voices of adoptees who have really experienced it firsthand, and also biological families as well, occasionally adoptive families. But I think if you are thinking about adoption or wanting to learn more about it, it's really important to see what it's like from the perspective of someone who was adopted and people that have had both positive and negative experiences. Adoption is definitely filled with so much love. Like there is so much openness and trust and vulnerability required. And obviously, I'm only speaking from my own personal experience here, but for adoption to occur, loss has to occur as well. And because of that, adoption is also filled with a lot of pain. There can be a lot of trauma. So if you are thinking about adopting, I definitely recommend, doing your research, listening to the voices of adoptees and hearing the good and the bad. The reason why I share this is because I definitely don't want to create like a perfectly polished view of adoption. That is not the narrative that I'm trying to add to. A lot of people have had very traumatic, very complex, very painful experiences with adoption. And that is something I fully recognize. And because of that, my husband and I will always try to navigate it in the best way possible and help our sons work through it however we can. But obviously, with adoption, there are a lot of beautiful aspects too. My husband and I would not get to be parents to our two beautiful sons if it were not for adoption. So it is a very complex topic, to be honest. And I feel like the older I get, the more I learn, the more I realize how complex it really is. One really beautiful aspect of adoption for us is that we get to have open adoptions with our sons' biological families. And that has been amazing. I'm so thankful for that. And I know it's not the case for everyone. It depends on the family, the situation, of course. But when you're going through the adoption process and you're getting approved, you get to decide if you want a closed adoption, an open adoption. It's always been open for us. We truthfully feel like the more open, the better, because we don't want to hide anything from our children. We want them to fully know their biological families, their backgrounds, where they came from. And it's such an interesting unique relationship that I feel like not a lot of people really get to experience. Obviously, our second son is only a couple weeks old, but we've already experienced this over the last few weeks. We've basically gotten to merge our family with their families in just a very unique way that truthfully not a lot of people get to experience. That's why I said in the beginning, like there is so much openness within adoption and trust and vulnerability required because everyone involved just wants our sons to know how loved they are. And they'll never doubt that. They get to grow up knowing there are so many people who just fully love them, and they get to experience that. And that to me is the most beautiful aspect, the most beautiful part in all of this is not that they have, separate families, but that we essentially come together and we prioritize our relationships with each other so that our sons get to grow up being so fully loved. Anyway, I know I just talked a lot about adoption, but obviously it is something that is a really big part of our lives and it will always be part of our lives. So, not only do we want to be the best parents possible for our children, as anyone does, we also want to be the best adoptive parents possible, both for them, but also, to and for their biological families as well. So I am so thankful that our son's birth mom chose us. It's the greatest honor that I could ever experience in my life. The fact that she trusted us and she picked us and she chose us it's mind-blowing. It really is. I think about it every single day and I'm so thankful for her and well both of my son's birth moms, but I'm also just so thankful that they trusted me. It's an honor I'll never fully be able to wrap my head around and it's just a privilege I can't take for granted. So anyway, I guess I didn't even introduce him fully. This is Theo Clark. I guess I didn't say his name in the beginning. So we did choose his name. Our first son's name is Tavian, and his biological mom chose his name. And we just thought it was really cool when we met her. She told us about it and her inspiration behind it. And we loved it. We thought it was perfect for him. We wanted to keep that identity that she gave him. And it has so many good nicknames. I love that it's unique, a little bit different. So anyway, Theo really is like the only name that we kind of landed on that we loved. There were like a couple of other ones we maybe thought about, but we just really liked the name Theo. We felt like it fit him perfectly. I like that both of our sons have T names, and Clark is actually a family name on his biological family side. So we wanted to include that as well. So he has that tie to his biological family too. So anyway, the last few weeks and really the last few months have just been an absolute blur. We were home study approved in the fall, like throughout the summer. We were updating all of our paperwork, filling everything out, doing our background checks, our references. It is a very intense process if you are looking to adopt, as it should be. Last time we didn't have any kids, so we got everything done so fast in like a week because we just dedicated an entire week to it. It was like the week after Christmas. We were also in the middle of a pandemic, so we were just home. We had a lot of time on our hands. This time it took us a few months because now we have a toddler and, we're both working. We have a lot going on. So anyway, we were officially like approved and everything was done in November. And then we got a call a few weeks later that his birth mom chose us, like right before the holidays. So everything was just, again, just such a blur. He was originally supposed to be due in February and he came a few weeks early in January. And like I said, he did spend the first few weeks of his life in the NICU. I won't go into all of the details because honestly, it's just a little bit overwhelming and I really want to respect his privacy even though he's a baby. I don't want to, share all of his personal details on the internet and obviously respect his birth mom's privacy as well, but it was really unexpected. Like everything was going super well and then all of a sudden it wasn't. So I am so thankful that they are both doing well, that they are both healthy because it was a really scary situation. When I shared the news on Instagram that he was born and that we were spending some time in the NICU, I got some messages, I got some comments from some of you saying that you had to experience that as well. And it's a very lonely, scary, isolating experience. Like even though there are other people that have gone through it, it's just I feel like you can't really be prepared for it. I'm really thankful he was born where he was. It was an incredible hospital. He wasn't born where we live. He was actually born like halfway across the country. So we weren't at home with our family and friends close by. But thankfully, a lot of our family were able to be with us. My mom and my sister actually flew our toddler down to be with us. Brady's parents were there for a little while as well. And then my other sister and brother-in-law came for a little while too. So we had help with our toddler and we just had family around, which was so nice because going through all of that, like out of state away from our family, just definitely intensified the whole experience. I'm really thankful for everyone that was on staff that was so kind, that just made like such an overwhelming, scary experience a little bit less intense. They were always just very gentle with us, very willing to walk us through all of the details, answer any questions, just kind of chat about things that weren't baby related if we didn't want to, especially the nurses. Like they were the ones that we spent the majority of our time with. And knowing that he was so well taken care of when we couldn't be there was amazing. Obviously, we did the best we could to be there as much as possible. But like I said, we have a toddler. He was also there. We were trying to constantly like figure out our rental car, our Airbnb, and it was a lot. So anyway, we were finally cleared to fly home about a week ago. The flight itself, like the whole flying experience was rough. We have flown a ton with our toddler. Like he's really good at flying. There's really never an issue, never a meltdown, like never even any tears. He naps every single time. He just sits there and colors or plays with toys or eats his snacks. Something flipped and I don't know what happened, but I just feel like everyone was feeling some sort of way for us because we almost missed our flight. We had a ridiculous amount of luggage from being out of town. We had obviously a newborn baby, a toddler. Our poor toddler, like his whole life has been flipped upside down, and we weren't home for 3 weeks, so his whole routine was off. The flight itself was like a little bit rough, but once we landed, our toddler had the biggest meltdown he's ever had. Obviously, there have been some major life changes. The weeks leading up to it were so stressful. He was out of his routine. He wasn't home. He was overtired. But, you know, it was just, we got off the plane and it was a bad one. And I swear everyone was staring at us. And I don't really fully get it because before we had kids, I didn't think anything of it. Like if a toddler was having a meltdown, I I would just think that it was over something silly, but I swear people look at you like you did it on purpose, like you made them cry. So anyway, here we are adjusting to life as a family of four. Tavian loves being a big brother. I knew he would. He loves kids so much. He is the most extroverted toddler I feel like I've ever seen in my life. And I knew that he would love being a brother, and it's been so much fun to see them together. He just stares at Theo all day long. He's always in his face. I feel like it must be interesting being like the second child or the third child or whatever, because you probably always have siblings in your face. There's always some kind of, something going on. I'm curious to know your take on this. If you are a parent to more than one child, what transition was more difficult for you? Was it going from 0 to 1 or going from 1 to 2? I have seen such different takes on this topic, and these videos always pop up for me on TikTok. And I feel like a lot of people say, I don't know. People say really different things. I feel like it's almost split right down the middle. For us, I think the more difficult transition is probably going to be going from 0 to 1, just because we were married for 10 years before we ever had a kid. So becoming parents was a little bit of a shock to us. And as much as we thought we were prepared, I feel like you can't really fully be prepared for it. You just have to experience it. But in general, I feel like now that we know what we're doing, I'm not really stressed about a lot of things I was stressed about the first time around. Like I'm very minimal with the things that I need. I feel like we aren't like so uptight about schedules, and we're just kind of trying to soak it in because again, we know that it goes so fast. I feel like the hardest part this time around will probably be the sleep deprivation, just because well, that was like the hardest part the first time around, but now we have a toddler. So it's not like we can take like a random nap in the middle of the day if we really, really need it. So that will be interesting. And then just trying to figure out how to balance things because now we have 2 kids. So I think we'll be splitting up a lot rather than focusing like both of our attention on just one. So I just wanted to share an update with you guys. I think I'll probably be back in maybe about 2 weeks. I've taken a couple of weeks off. Thankfully, I had pre-filmed a lot of content that you've seen over the last few weeks on my channel because I knew he was going to be born. I just didn't know that we would be gone for quite so long. And I'm really glad I was able to do that. I'm so thankful that we are both self-employed, which means our jobs and our lives are a little bit more flexible. It also means obviously we have to get back to work in order to make money and support our family. But for now, we're just kind of taking a step back so we can focus on our family and just settling into a new routine. So honestly, thank you so much for watching my videos. Thank you for being here and supporting my channel. Whether you are a newer follower or you've been around for a while, because of you, I'm able to do what I love. Like this is a dream job, but it also allows me the flexibility to be able to be with my family when needed and obviously support my family financially as well, which is amazing. So I'm really, really thankful. I can't wait to be back in March, but in the meantime, I'm just going to kind of soak everything in and just get back to life and kind of form a new routine. I pulled him out of the wrap. I think he was getting a little bit warm in there anyway because we've been sitting here for a little while. But the last thing I wanted to say is if you're still watching, I would love to know if you have any tips or tricks or advice that really helped you when you were making the transition from one kid to two. I know moms don't generally love like unsolicited advice, but I'm actually asking for it. If you have anything that you found really helpful that you did or something you wish you would have done differently, please let me know because I would love to know all of the best tips out there. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of my community. I really appreciate you. And I'll be back in just a few weeks.